officer can divert the individual to Elizabeth Fry, a social agency, where that individual will work with Elizabeth Fry in either in a manner in which that agency or an agency that they divert it to that's more appropriate. If there's mental health issues, they would divert it to the Canadian Mental Health Association. If they're the individual identified to the Elizabeth Fry Society, that they're Indigenous, perhaps the Barrie Native Friendship Center. And so the idea being diverting it to the proper social agency with the idea of the reason why that offense took place is addressed versus simple punishment. Because we do know that punishment is over and above. It's not just doesn't get the end goal is no more crime. Whereas there's potential with a diversion that the individual is then removed from that cycle.
Mayor Donald.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. On slide 9, talks about the contributors. The order of the contributors in terms of the reasons for, or I guess the substance that was in possession, is that the order in which the most amount to the least amount? Is that
correct?
So we're finding that there's more possession of cocaine than there is opioids?
Correct.
Really surprising data.
In terms of violation. So not necessarily in terms of quantity, but in terms of statistically how many offenses are being committed.
That come to our attention.
Right.
Is a proactive charge.
Proactive charge.
So that doesn't necessarily mean, so if there was something that was laced with fentanyl, but it may not be as frequent, it still may be more harmful and damaging, but it may not be as frequent. So you're seeing more frequency of cocaine compared to methamphetamine.
So in terms of the numbers that are here, these are violations. So it would mean that there were more occurrences where possession of cocaine occurred than there were opioids for that, specifically for that quarter. So it could be, just trying to think of an example. You could have initiatives or yes, that would influence those numbers or the positions of those numbers. It would be hard to use this as a way of defining what's the bigger problem. But specifically in this quarter, there would have been a larger count of occurrences where cocaine was a factor versus opioid.
So this doesn't take into consideration from a public health perspective or what our local hospital is seeing in the emergency, where this is specific to what we have seen during this quarter in relation to calls for service or proactive work with the Barrie Police.
Can I, Mr. Chair, am I okay to ask another follow-up on that? Is that to say then that this is related to charges?
No, violations are not necessarily related to charges. So violations count what happened within an occurrence, where charges would be a step farther than that.
So right now then we're I guess engaging in circumstances where there's more I guess cocaine is more prevalent than opioids at this point and more prevalent than crystal meth at this point. And that doesn't necessarily mean there's charges for those, but it just means there's more occurrences where they're involved, just so I understand.
More prevalent in the occurrences that we were made aware of within that quarter.
Okay, thank you.
And there will be incidences where we haven't had the drugs tested. So there may, when you speak about fentanyl, there may be other drugs with the charges, but on the face in the first contact, it is possession of cocaine, for example. But we may get the results back from the Center of Forensic Science that indicates that it's different, or wherever we're sending our samples for that specific event, if we do.
Mayor Nuttall, any follow-up?
Sorry, that's all for me. Thank you.
No, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just so that it's not being misinterpreted. This is not a reason to believe that necessarily certain drugs and certain activities are on the decrease. It's
No.
just the occurrences, and that's why I just want to be very clear. Like,
We've reported data.
yeah,
So this is, and the mayor's point was an excellent point. So what we see in it as a health issue, no one is suggesting in any way, shape or form that opioids have gone anywhere. And it's widespread issues across our community, across Ontario, across Canada, North America. That's not what we're suggesting. This is simply the police reported data that is coded in incidents that we're involved in. And so
I thought that was worth clarifying.
no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Johnson, please.
Through Chair, thank you for the presentation. The PONs is something, you know, as it's always brought up, it's probably the number one complaint of a counselor, road safety and stuff. And I understand that, you know, COVID was really affecting. And then in 2021, there were some initiatives where we concentrated on it. And now we're really back to struggling. And I know that it was mentioned by staffing and there were some positions being filled. Like right now, are we back to a full traffic unit?
We will be in the new year once we deploy our recruits to their respective areas. And we hope with those additional 14 recruits that will be graduating next month, will make an impact in regards to our staffing levels. And that follows suit with ensuring that we have officers assigned to traffic complaints. We've had some significant investigations involving collisions on our street, and that takes a high number of specialized officers to work on those investigations. And they have been working full-time on a number of those investigations, so they're not deployed to frontline enforcement either, the officers that we do have assigned in traffic.
And maybe a follow-up to that. In the crime traffic violations, so you're impaired by drugs, alcohol, care and control, driving prohibited, all that stuff. We see a decrease in, and I could be wrong. I think you said it was slide 10.
Slide 10.
Yeah. It was proactive. You said.
Just that this is another category that could be heavily influenced by proactive initiatives, right? So things like RIDE.
Now, could it also be because of the lack of officers that are doing traffic? That we're seeing a reduction in, you know, that we're unable to attend, like somebody calls and says, I think there's a car in front of me that's impaired, but because of the, you know, the strain on the service right now with resources that we're not pulling over as many cars. Like, is there a possible way to see if, you know, if it was proactive policing, there would be a number that we pulled over X amount of cars and there was only, you know, but there's really nothing. So I just find it weird that in the POAs or the POMs, thank you, are down due to lack of resources, but criminal traffic violations are down because of proactive policing. Like,
No, I think there was a comment that it could be part of proactive, but if a call comes into our communication center that there's allegations of an impaired driver on our roads, it wouldn't specifically be a traffic unit attending. It would be one of our frontline officers responding to that call. So it's reactive and proactive lumped into the criminal traffic violations.
and my final question, Chair, the crimes against persons, we always see the increase in the last quarter. Is it weather? Is it?
It appears to be third quarter, or we'll have to see next quarter if there's an increase there as well. But it does appear that third quarter, there's increases across the board.
I think that may be some months historically, the
Yes.
first quarter is the highest.
Right.
That's why, August.
There's a seasonality, there is a seasonality to the crime.
That's all. Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions of the chief of the team?
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Taking us on this. Jill. Included in the revised agenda are 3 consent items, staff acknowledgements, public complaints, and our budget variance at the end of October. Motion to receive those consent agenda. Second, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Any questions? Anybody like any of the items pulled or any comments from you on the 3 consent agenda items?
No, that's great. No comments to add there. Thank you very much.
Seeing none from the board, those in favor? Thank you. Strategic plan, it's been presented to us a number of times over the year, and we had our final one a month ago, and now I would entertain a motion for the board to formally approve the 2023-2025 Barrie service. None, Mrs. Norton. Any questions or comments with respect to the plan? Summarizing our packages. Seeing none, those in favor? That allows Inspector Burke to move forward with the full implementation of our 2023-2025 plan.
Thank you very much. Just so you know, the communications plan is in place and ready to be launched. KPIs are being identified, collecting the data on it. We're waiting to hit the launch plan.
Launch button, and the board looks forward to seeing the updates as we move forward with our strategy.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And included in our package was a reappointment of Special Constable Jacqueline Blanchette. A motion to approve that appointment. Any questions, comments with respect to the reappointment?
Just, sorry, just I know this individual, so I'm not gonna vote because just
The conflict.
I'm
The minutes could reflect that Deputy Mayor Thompson will not be voting on the motion. Those in favor? That's carried. Over to you, Ms. Strong, you have to, you have to head out. Thank you very much. John, we still have quorum, so we can carry on.
Okay, wonderful.
Happy holidays. Chief Greenwood, over to you, please, for your update.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And you see the PowerPoint presentation on the screen before you. And I can say the first picture here was a great day for the Barrie Police Service. Members of the leadership team and our human resources attended the Ontario Police College, where we saw the formal march past and ceremony for 14 of our recruits. Our recruits are back in Barrie in our training unit receiving additional training. We will have a graduation class next month on January the 10th for these individuals. And it was wonderful to celebrate their accomplishments in their academic training with their colleagues and their family members. We did have our Q3 stats today. So this is just a snapshot in front of you in regards to the calls for service that we had in the month of November. If you see that we have highlighted here our top 20 frequent calls for service, and we'll look at updating our stats for the board in a reporting format, but this is this month. And you can see that we had, for example, 131 domestic incidents involving family members or intimate partner violence. We see that there were 34 reports of thefts, and our officers conducted 307 motor vehicle stops in that time period. We also report on our Cop Logic. We encourage members of the community to use our online services to report crimes that fit that criteria. There's also an opportunity to highlight some of the investigations we are involved in. Many of our citizens would be aware on December the 1st, there was a motor vehicle collision in the area of Bayview Drive and Mapleview, where 3 pedestrians were struck. And we can say that 2 of the pedestrians were airlifted to trauma centers in Toronto, and they are recovering slowly. They were quite significant injuries they received. One of the pedestrians attended our local hospital and was discharged with minor injuries, and the driver of the vehicle was arrested and has been charged with 3 counts of impaired operation causing bodily harm. So that would be one that would be included in our next stats report for impaired driving. The other matter that we were involved in was a dangerous operation of a motor vehicle. It occurred at Dunlop and Hart Drive, where we had multiple individuals reporting to the police of an individual that was driving erratically and colliding with other vehicles in our city. We responded to the area, but we were not able to safely stop the fleeing vehicle. So officers did collect information and data, and very thankfully we had a lot of citizens come forward with information, and we were later able to identify the driver of that vehicle. And on December 8th, he was arrested for dangerous operation and failed to stop after an accident. A couple of other highlights we had with the Barrie Police Service that was something long overdue. We had the smudging ceremony in our community room, and we had members of Barrie Police and the Simcoe County paramedics with us, and we had a opening prayer. We had a traditional drum performance by our intertribal peacekeeper band, and we had a smudging service by Elder Jeff, who was the former chief of the Beausoleil First Nations. He's also the spring water superintendent, and the smudging ceremony was performed with a bald eagle stand with feathers that were gifted to the Barrie Police Service from Freedom Falconry. It was a very moving ceremony, and the purpose of the ceremony is to cleanse the negative energy and a positive healing and purification of the space that we occupy here at the campus setting. So it was a lovely ceremony. We also attended a few other events during the month of November. We had our United Way Holidays with a Hero. It is an opportunity for paramedics, firefighters, police officers, and military personnel to be hooked up with a young child in our community. They have a shopping experience at Walmart. They're able to purchase gifts for their families. And then it's followed by a lovely breakfast and some activities for the children. So this year we were able to support 75, and it was paused for 2 years during COVID. So we're back in full force, and it is very, very uplifting they say the heroes are the first responders, but in actual fact, it's the children that are the heroes. We also, on the same day, we headed down to Lakeshore and through Bradford and Dunlop for our Santa Claus parade. So we had our support on the roads, making sure people were safe through our auxiliary, our traffic, and our community safety and well-being teams were out there. And a few of us had the privilege of being on the frozen float this year. So it was a great event. It's always nice to see the community coming out. So we're hoping next year it'll be even better because we've had a pause once again because of COVID. And at one of our charities of choice for the police services across our country is the Special Olympians. And on the 19th of November, I was able to drop the puck with Christy Alford, who is going to be representing Canada at the World Games in Berlin in her role on the soccer team. So she's a multi-medal individual, and she dropped the puck there. A couple of other events that we participated in. Chief Designate Johnson attended the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and that focuses on 16 days of activism against gender violence. And this was followed up on December the 16th with the National Day of Remembrance and Action Against Violence Against Women. And many of us attended the city rotunda and acknowledged those that lost their lives at the Polytechnique in Montreal. And then there were some learnings and some awareness and some speakers. And then we honored all those that have lost their lives in gender violence. And we were really encouraging people to have this discussion and how the police and the social agencies and the communities can be safe and end violence against women and girls. And one of our very own special constables, Shannon, and our auxiliary unit were down at the Metro grocery store, and we crammed a cruiser for the Barrie Food Bank. And members of our service continue to collect food during key campaigns during the year, and we are stocking the shelves at the food bank once again during the holiday season. And Danielle is our lead on our mitten tree. And this is something that we have been doing for many years, and we cannot thank the dedicated group of people that are knitting scarves and hats and mitts. We have bags and bags that we are going to be distributing to needy organizations in the community that will pass it on to individuals that need the warmth as we look out the window and see a storm right now. So it will be great to ensure that young people and our seniors and anybody in between are provided with the wonderful donations that we're collecting here. So it's open until Monday, December the 19th. So if you have some, please drop them off at headquarters here. And the last item here, just a few days ago, had the opportunity to once again drop the puck at the Barrie Colts game with Chief Name Prize from Barrie Fire and Emergency Services and Chief Mills from Simcoe County Paramedics. And for those may recognize one of our retired members, Al Gilchrist, is on the right-hand side there too, all supporting the work that's being done in our community. And that is it. So before I close, I would just like to thank the board for the privilege of having the chief position bestowed on me, and to those that are joining us in the community, from citizens to businesses to organizations and institutions in our great city. Thank you very much for the privilege and honor of being your chief. And this is my last meeting, but I hope those of you can join the YouTube remotely to see the change of command ceremonies, where I have the great privilege, or the chair has the great privilege, of passing on the torch to Chief Designate Johnson. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
By the board's comments to invest in your events was the event you had a week ago, in which the chief begrudgingly allowed us to acknowledge her retirement, but in doing so, raise awareness and funds for the Children's Youth and Advocacy Center for Syndrome Stroke. So we were able to raise some money, awareness, and in my comments that evening, I concluded with that there's a number of people indebted to you, Chief, for your 40 years of public service, but none more than people have buried for the last 10 years, Sir Chief. So we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Any questions for the Chief? We're letting her off easy.
Yeah, you are. Mm-hmm.
Thanks to you for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Our next meeting is January the 19th of 2023 next year. To advise those who are watching, our meetings will convert back to a morning meeting. So our meetings will be 9 a.m. Same Thursday, the third Thursday of each month, but we'll go back to a morning meeting at 9 o'clock. A motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending those. Today's second.
Thank you. And a big thank you to the members of our service and all the work that they do through this year and will continue to do.